All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Behind the Masterpiece, brought to you by Visit Sarasota County. You can always go to visitsarasota.com to catch this episode and more. And with us today, we are going to be talking to Melissa Rummel from Sarasota Contemporary Dance. You can always go to sarasotacontemporarydance.org to catch their upcoming performance of Joan of Arc, which Melissa is dancing in that lead role. Melissa, welcome to Behind the Masterpiece.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
It's a thrill to have you. You are celebrating your 10th year in Sarasota Contemporary Dance, while Sarasota Contemporary Dance is celebrating its 20th season. Mia Moore, love these things. Big fan of Sarasota Contemporary Dance, our contemporary dance company here in Sarasota. You're doing great work. This is your second time reprising this role. I'm very curious, how do you prepare to be this Joan of Arc dancer? What's the process like?
Yeah, so it's very different this year compared to last year. When it was originally set back in 2017, I actually wasn't even in it, but one of the dancers got injured, so I ended up jumping into a supporting role, and then in 2023 taking the lead on, where we expanded it into a full-length show. And it's very exciting because the music is created as we are dancing. So we created the whole dance in silence. And then we had the musician come in and he did it all by himself and all his different recording devices and loops, and created it after watching us perform. So it was really interesting because it's always different when collaborating with musicians. Like sometimes we dance to their music right away, they give us music. Sometimes it's created in collaboration. So this was very much a collaborative process. And it's such an intimate and emotional performance, which is different than some Sarasota contemporary dances, some that you may have seen. Or we do a lot of different types of dances, like upbeat and fun, but this one is definitely more emotional, intense, and really just about like sisterhood and faith. So it definitely is way more emotional, and it is pretty physical as well for us dancers. So you have to prepare in all different ways, not just in your technique, but in your endurance and your emotion as well.
Melissa, this is fascinating. Thanks for sharing. I don't know if I've really heard of pieces being created in silence before in this way. I'm so fascinated by that. Can you tell us a little bit more and dig in? So how do you, and this is a 50-minute piece about, so it is a story, arc, and narrative of Joan of Arc. How well did I do that? I didn't mean to. But Joan of Arc, this arc and story that you have, how are you preparing the story to tell without music silently at first? What is that process like?
Yeah, so now we are just restaging it. But
Sure.
back in 2023, when we originally did it, we focused a lot on, as far as dancing, a lot on relationships, the different relationships that Joan of Arc may have had. And then also, if you haven't heard of her, she was very young when she stepped into this role of warrior, and she was hearing voices from God. So we focused a lot on those voices. And I believe Elamus was very inspired on that. And then she was very inspired on putting on the armor of God as a way of, fighting and going out. So a lot of the movement began very gestural, of that, like the helmet and the sword. So you'll see a lot of warrior positions and movement. So it was kind of created out of that. And we don't have like a literal story of Joan. So the literal story is, as a lot of people know, very sad ending. So we didn't want to just like leave the audience with sadness. We wanted it to be more about her faith and her strength, as more of like a vision of hope. So you'll see obviously her struggles throughout the piece, and you'll see that intensity and fight, but we're ending with more of a hopeful ending rather than a sadder one.
Thank you, Melissa. We are talking to Melissa Rummel, who is dancing as Joan of Arc in Joan of Arc for Sarasota Contemporary Dance, which you can catch January 15th through the 18th. You can go to sarasotacontemporarydance.org to get tickets and find out more. So, Melissa, tell us a little bit more about this music. Mark Dancingers was the composer, and obviously you just sort of described, yep, he was responsive, but how does it work now? So like now that and how does music really help movement tell this story as well?
Yeah, so it's very, if you haven't heard his music, it is amazing. Like he is able just to continue to loop and create all of this sound all by himself. And when you're in the theater, it sounds like there's a whole orchestra or whole band, and he's doing it all with just his electric guitar and amp. And it really changes the whole atmosphere of the room. So when we were running this piece in silence, obviously it's very hard to go fully emotional when it's like completely dead silent, even though you have each other. So what was so amazing is when we first were restaging this back in 2023, we were doing like a whole hour piece silent. And then Mark came in and he was like, "Oh, I had some ideas when I watched the video." And he created it, and it just changed the whole room when he put on that music.
Thanks, Melissa, for telling us a little bit about the music and Mark Dansinger's. He sounds incredible. I'm a big fan of sort of that looping. I think that's really rich and layered. I'm sure it adds a lot. We've talked about storytelling and movement and the music, but just tell us a little bit in general. How does dance and movement tell stories? What's really remarkable when someone comes to experience Sarasota contemporary dance, and especially in this piece, that it's a longer arcing story as opposed to some shorter pieces as well?
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, I always said like one of the reasons I love dance so much is it like says things that words can't always say. And you're able to express things through your physical body, through your face, and through those emotions. This piece does have some words though, so we will be talking throughout the piece. So it is a little bit more literal as far as the talking part. It's kind of more very theatrical. This piece is more like seeing a play, but with dancers dancing and talking throughout it. So a lot of our dances, again, sometimes we use words, but a lot of times you go to a dance, you don't hear any talking, you just hear music and dancer. But this is very theatrical. There's talking, there's acting, there's moments of pause. So it is more of like a theatrical one to tell the story, more of like you're coming in to see like a play.
I love it. So a very theatrical version this time with Joan of Arc. Melissa, you have a few other roles in addition to dancing and doing choreography and so many things. You also happen to be the studio coordinator. I think so many of the dancers wear a lot of hats in a small organization. Beautiful. What does that mean? What does a studio coordinator do for something like Sarasota Contemporary Dance?
Yeah, so a studio coordinator was created back when our studio came to life in downtown Sarasota. And I really just put together all the classes. I do all the registrations. I do all the gathering of teachers, all the planning. And I think that's what's so beautiful about these small companies is like you said, we wear many hats. We're not just dancers, we're choreographers, we're teachers, we're administrative workers. And so I think what really has kept me here for so long is the ability to expand my profession, not just in like one dimension, but in these multiple different uh, ways. And so, studio coordinator has helped me gain skills in more of the admin side of things, dance related. So I think it's really awesome that Lamus gives these dancers opportunities, and it also helps the company having people so passionate about the company also doing the admin side of it.
Yeah, I love it. Lamus has a great vision, great caretaker of Sarasota contemporary dance in so many ways. So, friends, if you like seeing Melissa and Joan of Arc, maybe you can sign up for a class with her or many other things. There's lots of different studio things happening, lots of classes, workshops, ensembles. We'll talk more about that in a second as well, as you have a role with the Sarasota Contemporary Dance Ensemble. But, Melissa, 10 years, that's a lot to do. The life of a dancer is really, really demanding. It's very physical and along with being emotional and telling these stories. How do you care for yourself over these 10 years and really day to day? What's a dancer do to take care of yourself to make it through a season and 10 years and beyond?
Yeah, it's really different your body aging. I never thought my body would age. It's just everything. what I tell people too is because they're like, oh, how are you continuing to do this now? You're a mother as well, which is another full challenge in itself. But I feel like as you get older, like maybe you're not as flexible, or maybe something hurts a little longer and you take longer to warm up, but your maturity and your life experiences are so much more vast, which pulls, I feel like, more depth in your dancing. So when I get to points where like, oh my goodness, like these young 22-year-olds are now coming in and, they're coming fresh and their bodies are so like healthy and strong. And then I remind myself that, it's not just about what our body's doing. It's like what our heart is showing. And so there's so much more to being a dancer than just being able to kick your leg up to your ear. So many people, can do that nowadays. Like there's more that comes to performing than just one set of skills. So I think like now, obviously, I try to take care of my body the best I can with, stretching and eating and drinking what I should be doing, and just trying to stay healthy and strong. And I do a lot of outside work besides just dancing, like physical wise, and taking care of myself. But I think it's just also a mental battle as you get older. Mentally, just like preparing, I go to rehearsals earlier than I used to because it takes me a little bit longer to warm up. I cool down a little bit longer than I used to. So you just have to like take in consideration where you're at in life and where your body's at in life. But like you kind of said, I think Sarasota Contemporary Dance is also a blessing because many places probably would not keep a mom around, just because there is so many different, like I bring my baby to rehearsal and I'm allowed to. And I've been so blessed with being able to continue in this role as a mother and be supported by the other dancers. So going back to this Joan role, I feel like I get emotional when I talk about this, but I feel like it's a very different stage of life than I was my last Joan role. Like my last Joan role, I felt like I was my peak of my physical dancing. So when Lame said we're bringing this back, I was like, sorry. I was a little intimidated because, so much has changed. But like I said, there's so much depth when it comes to experience. And this dance is very emotional. And I think it's very connected to like other dancers. And through having a daughter, I've gained like these connections that like I never thought I would have. So
Yeah,
long story short, that's how I keep going.
that was
No, but
really beautiful.
what is so beautiful, and to be able to continue dancing.
Yeah, beautiful perspective on it, life experience. And I think what also is really remarkable about what you just shared is like the change that art can have over time, and the meaning that it has over time. For if this is the third performance in of this piece, that even for folks who have seen it before, it has new meaning every time. And I think that's the beauty of art, that I bet you would agree with, is that it's the experience that's happening in that moment, and that meaning can be different at every time that it happens. And how beautiful to share that with us and the audiences. And I'm sure it'll make people want to see you even more in this role. So thank you for that, Melissa.
And sorry, one more thing. That's what's so funny is because when I did the role in 2023, I was physically, at my best, I felt like, but then emotionally, I was good. They were like trying to like, Lamb was like, you need more emotion. And like, I never cry. Like, I'm not a crier. I'm not like an emotional person. So they were like doing all these like, I guess, exercises to try to like bring up this emotion. And it took me so long to get there. And now it's like, we had one rehearsal and I'm like, it's like, ladies, you just need to have a baby now and just cry all the time.
I love it. It's beautiful. Yeah. Well, I think your story and this piece really talks about the sisterhood. I know is so important to Lamus, and I think really important for our community. I hope people go experience this with you. Melissa, a couple more questions. Thanks for spending some time with us and sharing. You've talked about, I think you've again referenced this caring nature of Sarasota Contemporary Dance. So the future is always important as well. You're working with some future folks as your role as associate director of Sarasota Contemporary Dance Ensemble, which I just recently got to see a couple weeks ago. Beautiful. What's Sarasota Contemporary Dance Ensemble, and what's your role? What does that mean to be stewarding this next group of dancers to an extent?
Yes, when I was talking to Lamus a while back, about 7 years ago, when we were coming up with this idea, we knew we wanted to expand SCD in some way. And me and Shen, who's my co-director, always had a heart for training and for bringing up fellow dancers. And we wanted to create like a springboard of dance, dancers who might not quite be ready for the professional career, but who want that training that's sometimes hard to get outside of schools. Or once you graduate high school, it's like, where do I go if I'm not, going to college? Or once I graduate college, if I don't get in. We wanted just an atmosphere to continue to train and develop these dancers, as well as create, that home feeling that SCD brings to a lot of people. So we came up with the Ensemble idea, and this is a company that trains dancers as well as offers opportunities to perform a lot of times throughout Sarasota. So it gives even past professionals have come and danced, and they just wanted a place to perform. So they've come and been with us for a couple of seasons. So it's a really great place to just for dancers to have that opportunity to keep performing and keep training, and have that community, of friendship and fellowship with other dancers.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Melissa. Well, I know we all want to go check out this performance of Joan of Arc, January 15th through the 18th. As Sarasota Contemporary Dance highlights its 20th season, all of the performances this year have a really strong connection with music and live music in so many ways as well. So one of the great things about Sarasota Contemporary Dance. Melissa, thanks for joining us on Behind the Masterpiece today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
It was wonderful to have you. So you can find out more about Melissa and Joan of Arc by going to sarasotacontemporarydance.org to get tickets January 15th through the 18th to Joan of Arc. I know I want to go. I'm your host, Brian Hirsch of Behind the Masterpiece. You can check this episode out at visitsarasota.com and others as well. Thanks so much for catching Behind the Masterpiece. Until next time. We'll catch you later. Listening to this episode of Behind the Masterpiece, brought to you by Visit Sarasota County. For more and to hear this podcast, go to visitsarasota.com.